My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Today we have a real treat in store for us. We have the individual state mathematics champion, Conference 5A from 2005, Mr. Feng Li, a proud Sugarland Dulles Viking. Okay, Texas Math Mundo audience, we have a real treat in store for us today. We have the 2005 Mathematics Conference 5A state champion, Feng Li. And that's back when there was only 5A, there was no 6A. Feng, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Feng, let's start with what's happening today. So, what are you up to? How are you dealing with this pandemic?
Yeah, so right now I'm working in an insurance company as an actuary in Portland, Oregon. But then this whole thing hit, so now I'm able to work from home. So right now I moved back to Sugarland, Texas, which is where my family is. So right now I'm back home and just working.
Great. So actuary, that sounds pretty fascinating and sounds pretty tough. So did you did your mathematics background, of course, that helped you with the actuarial career?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Because I really think that many industries require a lot of math or like computer programming or some sort of those data analytics. And having some strong math background will definitely help a lot. Yeah.
All right. So besides, all work and no play would make Fang very boring. Do you
hmm
how do you engage when you're not at work? Do you have any hobbies or interests that you pursue? I think you're a good cook, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I like cooking and I like food blogging. So yeah, I have a lot of pictures and videos on my Instagram and Facebook page.
Oh
So
wow.
that's my hobby. Yeah, cooking is one of my hobby, and then I also like to just go out and take a walk, or maybe go to the park and explore the city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I stay home and watch TV. Yeah.
It's amazing. I haven't you haven't cooked for me yet.
Oh, not yet.
Hey, but it looks
But
delicious. When I see
you
it
know,
it
yeah,
looks delicious, man.
one day definitely will.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. You can invite me and Jonathan Trent, say we'll have a good time. Um,
Yes. He eats too much though. So
so you're a proud Dulles Viking. Is that correct?
yes, exactly. Very proud of that, even
So
until now.
yes, yeah. So I have a question. How did you get to Sugarland and Dulles? Like, were you born here? Did you travel? What's your story? How did you end up getting to be at Dulles High School in 2005? How did that all come to happen?
Yeah, so I was actually born in China, and then I came here as an immigrant in high school. So I had some of my family members in Sugarland, Texas. So that was where I first landed. And because I was in that school zone, so I just went to Dallas.
So, did you
Yeah.
speak English? Did you speak any English? How was your English when you
Um,
arrived?
oh yeah, very little. So that was a very tough time. That to learn about the language and also learn about the school system and also the way people live in America. So
So,
it
what grade
was a
were
tough
you?
time. That was ninth grade.
So, you had your early year education in China.
Yes. Yeah.
How is it in China to be educated over there?
In China, they focus a lot on math and science, and they have a lot of um, classes after school or even on weekends. So they focus a lot on academics. But what they focus relatively less is uh, other types of talents like music, art, sports. So academic is basically their main focus. So I think that's the biggest difference.
So, you feel when you got to Dulles, you got a much more rounded education. There were much more options for you to pursue.
That, and then also I was able to choose my extracurricular, and I was able to start building up my time management skills. Because right now, because in America, there's a lot other things that you have to deal with. Not only just your classes, but also extracurricular and learn and be able to learn driving. At a really young age. So all those things that will test your time management skills.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
So, and were you able to make some good friends when you got to Dulles, or did that take a while for you to make friends?
It took a little while, but then people there are very friendly, and I was lucky that I was able to adapt relatively quickly.
Wow. I don't know if you know this. I was a Dulles Viking.
Really,
In 10th grade. In 10th
I didn't know
grade.
that. Yeah, I don't remember you mentioning that.
1988. That's how
1988.
back. And 10th grade, I was at Dulles High School, just so you know. Yes, I thought it was an interesting tidbit. So
Yeah.
I want to know how you got into UIL. How did that happen? The math team and all that stuff. What happened? How did you become a math team guy?
Yeah, I think back then we didn't really have a math competition program. We just we had Mu Alpha Theta, which is the Math Honor Society, and we don't really do trainings, but we still go to tournaments. We don't win a whole lot, obviously. But then in my senior year, Coach Mr. Jonathan Trent came over from Hightower, and he started a program there. I'm sure you are very familiar with him. He got you into this too, right?
Yes. Well, this is a very interesting story, and it deals with you. Me and Jonathan Trent were at Hightower in 2004 grading the district exam. We saw a paper that had almost all the number sense answered, but just missed by a little bit here, a little bit there. And then you know whose paper that was?
That was mine.
That was
I still remember that. Yep.
That was your paper. And then a couple months later, our principal pissed him off. And next thing you know, he's over at Dulles High School. And guess who he goes and finds? You.
Me.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like I was like there at the birth of Jonathan Trent and that Dulles, because you're kind of like the foundation. Your generation started the legacy that became the dominance of Dulles High School in UIL academics.
Yeah.
So you were right there you were the first generation, really.
Yeah. Yep.
There must be a lot of pride. So tell me about that team. What do you remember about that team? What do you remember about that year?
Yeah, that year we worked a lot, and none of us had any experience competing or any formal experience at least. But Dulles High School, as one of the oldest schools in the school district, we have a lot of talents. And we're lucky enough that we're able to gather people who are interested and also good at math. And we started training. I remember on that year, we stay until 5:30 or even 6 in school practice on a daily basis, and also includes weekends. So a lot of effort have put in. And then we went through basically all the practice tests that we could find online or anywhere. And it's just a lot of work and also a lot of fun because we're able to make a lot of friends there too.
So not only are you the state individual champion in 2005, but Dulles was the team champion in 2005.
Yes.
Do you remember the names of your teammates? Who was that team? Who was that championship team?
Yeah. So we had Stacy Liu, and we had Jacob Wang, and we have Tommy Kai.
Okay, and then Feng Li.
Yes. Yep, I still remember their scores. Our team score was 908, and back at that time, it was pretty difficult for a whole team average to break 300 on each person.
Yes.
So I think everyone, including the host, was very impressed.
Were calculators allowed on the math test at that time?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because I knew there was one time it wasn't. Not too much before that.
I think. I don't know if that was the first year or one of the earlier years where a graphing calculator was allowed on math tests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're such a unique person because not only are you the 2005 state champion in the highest classification, 5A, but you also became a coach, so that you have two perspectives here. So after high school, where did you go to college?
So I went to UT Austin, and I majored in math, actuarial science option. So I graduated at the end of 2008.
And yet you decided not to go to the private sector.
Yep,
You
that's
came back to
correct.
Dulles. Why?
I just feel like my calling at Dulles was not finished yet. There's still something, or maybe I'll just say I haven't enjoyed enough yet, so I decided to come back. And I think also at that time, one of the other coach, Ermini Minert, she left to do something else. So I just feel like and also Mr. Trent left too, I think at that time. And I just really don't want that program to go in vain. So I just feel like it's my burden to come back and reestablish this program and get it going forward.
And man, did you. They were dominant those years when you were a coach.
Yes.
I remember. Tell me, how is it from a coach's perspective? Tell me about the teams that you coached, the students you coached, and that whole experience from a coach's perspective. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. So first of all, coaching is just as much fun as going out to compete. Maybe a little less, but almost equal. I had a lot of fun in coaching too. And to be honest, the whole reason I returned to become a teacher is because I wanted to coach.
Really?
I mean, I also wanted to teach students, but my primary reason was definitely to go back to coach, and at Dulles High School specifically. Yeah.
Wow, that's
and yeah, and to be honest, like teachers, they change a lot because you are hired by the school district, not by your school directly. So if the school district has some changes, they are able to move you to a different school, and the principal couldn't do anything. So at that time, I think there was some changes in the school, and then they were forcing the newest teacher to go to a different school, and I was the newest teacher because it was my first year. So I was this close to being moved to another school. I think it was Clemson or something like that.
Wow.
And then I got lucky that I didn't get moved because I was like teaching calculus, and it was a little hard to dissolve my students into other classes because I was the only calculus teacher. So they couldn't really move me. But I was saying to myself, if they move me, I might as well just quit because because I came back to teach at Dulles specifically, and I don't want to. So I didn't really consider myself as a teacher, but I consider myself as a Viking.
Yeah, a Viking, man.
That's not enough,
pride.
Right?
Dulles pride. And you know what? I did not know this story. This is all new to me. So this is interesting. You almost went to Clemson. Aren't they your arch rivals?
Yes. Yep.
That would have been what a twist of fate to go to Clemson.
So I think some other teacher ended up having to move there. So I was lucky it wasn't me.
Yeah. So tell me about some of your students. Are there any memorable teams? Is there any memorable years you had as a coach?
Yeah, I think every year was memorable. I was coaching for 3 years plus 1 year of competing. That completes my 4 years of high school. So, but yeah, every year was very exciting. And in school, people change. You always have young talents, and you always have the backbone member of your team graduating. So every year is a big change. And I was glad that we always had talents coming in, and we always had a good mentorship going on in our team for the old senior students to teach the younger ones. So you won several
state tournaments as a coach, right?
Yeah.
So did you have any memorable students? Were there any students that you felt were memorable?
Yeah, a lot, but I'll mention two as examples. One of them is Guo Yangshen. I don't know if you remember him. I'm pretty sure you do. Really?
He's a coach at Milby.
Okay, yeah. So the reason that I remember him a lot is because I still remember before I became a teacher, I still went to state tournaments with Dulles High School when I was in college because I was, in UT Austin. And when they come to compete, I'll go meet up with them. And do some practice problems with them. So I still remember him, or even in San Antonio for TMSA State. So I still remember him scoring in the high 100, hardly break 200s in his sophomore year. That's pretty good, but not the elite level that you want to compete at the top of level in your state, right? But then I just remember that after that summer, he practiced so hard, and on the very first day he came back as a junior, he started scoring all 300s and stuff. So that really reminded me of myself, where I just spent a lot of time practicing with friends over the summer, and then just saw a significant improvement on myself, and also in everyone who's practicing with me. So I really saw myself in him. That's why I really remember that.
And now he's the coach at our rival school. That's interesting. You created him.
Yeah. Yep.
What other students? You had 2 students.
Yep. The other one I would like to mention is Daniel Fan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and he is just elite since freshman year. He would score like nearly 300, like 270, 280s easily, consistently on a math test. And then, breaking 300 on a math test as a freshman for him was not a hard thing, And the reason I wanted to mention him is because, that in Sugarland, Texas, if you talk about the pipeline, it's all about first colony for settlement. Yeah, at the middle school level, they dominate the nation. And Daniel Fan was an organic Dulles student. He came in from Dulles Middle School with very little formal training, very little high-level competition experience. But then he came in just as elite as anybody else in the school district.
And he didn't come from a program. He didn't come from a well-established program. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I really wanted to mention him is because he was organic grown. He is more of a Viking than I am. I can say that. Yep.
Oh man, I do remember him, by the way. I do remember him. Mitchell Wang, Bobby Shen. I remember that group. All over your tutelage.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So
yes.
Yeah, so I was very impressed, and I'm very proud of him too, because he is a proof that you don't have to come from a well-known program or an elite school to be good. All it takes is your self-motivation and your self-interest.
Oh, that's a great message. That's a great message. Yep. So I'm pretty sure that you helped inspire many of these kids. So the question I have for you is, who inspired you?
Who inspired me? I'll say 2 people. One is Tommy Kai, which is my lifetime friend. Wow. And he was actually in Clemson High School, and he went through the First Colony program. And he was one of the top kids there in middle school, And then I think he came to Dulles in his sophomore year. And then he was the one who dragged me into practicing number sense and math at the beginning. So yeah. So, and I still keep in touch with him. He is my lifetime friend. And the second person would definitely be Mr. Jonathan Trent, which was my coach in my senior year, because that year was the first year Dulles High School started to practice and go to competition formally. So he was definitely the person who got me into a systematic training, and then he was actually the person who showed me where my true potential was. So,
I knew we were in trouble at Hightower when he went over to Dulles. I knew we were in trouble, and sure enough, you all just dominated. Dominated. That was wonderful. Great memories.
Very thankful for that.
Wow, that's great memories. And so you decided to leave teaching and enter the private sector. There's one story that I heard you tell a long, long time ago when you were interviewing, a number sense story. Would you mind sharing that story with the audience?
Okay, so when I was interviewing for an actuarial job, that job uses a lot of math, and during lunchtime, like all interview processes are pretty serious. You meet with all the managers and stuff, but lunch break was relatively relaxing, and I was eating with some of my future teammates, and then we went to a restaurant, and then we kind of just started chatting because some of them were grown up in Texas, and some of them came from other states, and then we were just kind of chatting about our past interests and lives, and they were kind of looking at my resume and then saw, okay, I competed in number sense, so they were asking me, okay, so what is number sense? And then some of them were from Texas, so they kind of knew about it, but they didn't really practice, so they knew the name, but they didn't really know what it is. So I kind of told them it's like mental math, where you recognize some patterns and find shortcuts to calculate some numbers really quickly. And then he was like, okay, can you show me a trick? And then I was like, yeah, for example, a very simple trick. If you give me two numbers in their 90s, I can just quickly give you the product of the two numbers. And then they just randomly said two numbers. So what's 94 times 98? And that's a simple trick in number sense. Okay. And then within like a split of second, I just said, okay, that's 9212. And then they were like so impressed, like magic or something. They thought it was magic or something. So they were asking me, how did you do that? And I was like, yeah, there's just a simple trick. And then you recognize this pattern and you follow this formula and gets you to the answer really quickly. And they were all really, really impressed. And that made the atmosphere a lot more friendly, like especially in an interview setting. And I think that I left a really good impression on them, and then also give me a lot of confidence to go into the afternoon session. And I think after I got hired, they even kind of mentioned to me that during my debrief with them, like all the people who interviewed me, they kind of had a short meeting to discuss, and they actually mentioned our conversation during lunch, and then they thought I really had some tricks in my sleeves. So they thought I was a really interesting person, and that was one of the reasons that they decided to hire me. So
wow, that's incredible.
Very
what
fun.
An entertaining story for me. I really love that.
Yeah.
And so how's life been in the private sector?
It's fun, and it's nowhere nearly as intense as teaching. I can tell you that.
So teaching is more intense?
Yeah. Wow. Because teaching, well, I'll say a little bit about teaching first, because teaching, you've got to respect your teachers because they deal with so much. They have to have technical skills. They need to know the material. They also have to have great people skills because they deal with students. Yeah. They also deal with parents. They also deal with colleagues and principals. Yes. And a lot of stuff. So they have a lot to cover. They have a lot to handle. So it's very intense. And also they only get 25 minutes of lunch break.
Yeah, it can be tough. I'm glad you're saying this because a lot of the public, sometimes they don't know. But you've been there. So
I know. So one thing that I'm grateful most in private sector is my lunch break is a little more flexible. I normally can take up to an hour to do it and relax a little bit. But in school, I think both teachers and students, they're always on a very tough schedule. So
cool. Wonderful.
It's difficult. Yeah.
So you're still a young man, but looking back, what do you value the most in your UIL experience?
Yeah, what I value the most is that gives an opportunity to people for people like me to really enjoy high school and really maximize our interests and potential. Because if you think about that, the people who get most attention are probably athletes or the artists because they have, for example, basketball or football or any sports, they probably have their season of leagues that they compete regular tournaments. Yeah. And for people with other talents like art and music or maybe some other stuff, they have programs where they can compete and showcase their talents.
Yes.
But for people who are strong in academics, that stage is usually a little smaller, especially in math and science, who are considered, boring to a lot of people. How exciting is it to see people do math problems? But people have interests. There are people that love math and science. There are people that love academic subjects.
Yes.
And we, as a school or as a teacher, I think it's our, I wouldn't say responsibility, but it's our burden to provide these stages to these students. And I think that is the most important value of this whole UIL thing, is that we give everyone who's interested in academics a stage where they can explore and also enjoy and also value themselves. So.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. And this channel is counting that there's plenty of math fans. So
Yeah.
let's hope. Let's hope. So, very important.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for today's youngsters? What kind of advice would you want to give the youth who might come across this interview and listen to you?
Yeah, I would say that do something that you really enjoy and then push to your max potential in high school. Because, in lifetime, you have all the time you want to do the things you like, but high school is only 4 years. You graduate and you can never come back. So that once the time is passed, it's passed. And this is a time where you have the most potential and you have the most energy. So you might as well just push yourself. Whether your interest is in math and science or some other subjects, if that's something you enjoy, push yourself. Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. That's great advice. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Feng Li, what does the future hold for you? Where are you going to come back to teaching? Are you going to come back to Dulles, where your heart really is? What does the future hold?
Yeah, right now, I don't know. It's always a possibility. Sometimes even now, I still think, okay, if I'm still a teacher, what would I do differently from last year, entering a new semester or a new school year? And sometimes I still imagine myself doing different things to get my students practice. So I sometimes really wish there are two of me, so I can do my current job, and also the other me would, go to Dallas and continue teaching. But right now, I'm not sure. Yeah, I might not have immediate plans to go back to the education industry, but I'll always keep an eye on them because I know I'm forever a Viking. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. I love that, Feng Li. So, any parting words? Any parting words as we conclude this interview?
Yeah. So to all the students, I would say, especially to all those introverts who focus a lot on academics, finding an academic program in your school not only gives you a stage for you to explore your interest, but that will also give you opportunity to make a lot of friends. Because as an introvert myself, I'm not naturally good at making a lot of friends, and I was glad that I was put in an environment that I was comfortable with, and also a lot of people like me who are just as introvert as me. So we became friends, and some of us became lifetime friends. So it's a great platform for you to not only explore your interest but also make a lot of friends. And and these people move on and do different things in their future lives, and it's always good to have this network.
Absolutely. Feng, I wish that Texas had a Hall of Fame for UIL Math, Science, Number Sense, because not only you're the individual 2005 state champion, but you came back as a coach. If anybody belongs in that Hall of Fame, That's Feng Li.
Oh, thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
I mean
Yeah.
it. And I'm very proud to include you as one of my friends, Feng. So I really, really enjoy you. I've always enjoyed you. I remember the humble student at 2005. I remember that Feng Li. And so you're just one of my favorite people on this planet, Feng.
Yeah, I remember you too because in my very first tournament, I still remember that. That was at the end of October, and we went to Bridge City. That was
Yes.
always our first school, and we were sharing bus Dulles High School with Hightower, and you
Yes.
were there. So I yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you, Feng Li. I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Yeah,
Don't be a
thank you.
stranger. We might have you back, especially to explain some hard math problems.
I'll be glad to. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So long, Feng.
I hope that you enjoyed that interview. Feng Li is quite a character. This YouTube channel hopes to bring you many more stories and many more characters for your enjoyment. So long for now. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Texas Math Mundo.